Hi, Michael from Worship Times. Going to show you today how to keep your website organized by using events. More specifically, we're going to be using recurring events in a series that will then allow us to go in and make individual edits. Also using categories so we can display events in different pages for certain groups of your ministry. So let's go ahead and get started. So what we're doing right now is this framework. We're using Divi as our theme, events calendar, and we're using their pro version. And then we're also using an add-on for Divi called Divi Events Calendar. So if you're a Worship Times partner, you'll have all of this installed. If any of the tools aren't there, just reach out to support and we can help you. But if you're coming to us new, these are the tools that we are using. So let's go ahead and dive in. So our first step is we're going to do this just for youth and then also worship, just because those are kind of two main things that most ministries have. But that's not the limit, right? You can do this for any kind of groups in your church, just the sky's the limit with this. But for right now, we're just going to stick to youth and worship. So what we have is we have just a sample worship page and a sample youth group page. Obviously, this is just demo content, and we're going to put upcoming events down here, and the same thing with worship, upcoming events down here that will always stay current. So our first step with our event management system is we're going to create series. So what a series is going to allow us to do is group recurring events, single events, all sorts of different events into one series. Same thing with worship and youth. So we're just going to call this, first one is going to be worship, and there's really nothing else you need to do right now. We're just going to publish that. And then we're going to add another one, and we're just going to call this youth. And we want these to be fairly vague because it's going to encapsulate all things youth, all things worship. So like worship, we could do worship services, coffee hour, fellowship, really anything that has to do with worship. Same thing with youth. We could do youth mission trips, youth group events. So we want to make these broad. So the next step is we want to start creating some events. And we're going to first create recurring events. So let's do this. We're going to just say add new, and we're going to create our first worship service one. So we're just going to say this is 8 a.m. worship service. For now, we're going to leave the text blocks blank. We're going to get back to that later. We need to make sure that it has an event category of worship. We also want to make sure that we want to add it to the series we just created, worship. So now let's give it event details. We're going to go from 8 a.m. not till 5. We're good Presbyterians. So let's say that's till 9 a.m. We're going to schedule multiple events, and we're going to do this weekly on Sunday. Oops, I forgot to schedule that on Sunday. There we go. Sunday every 1 week. And here's a tip. Never just leave it as never, because what that does is it'll just clog up your database and it can slow things down. So what we want to do is just select when it's going to end. And we'll just say our calendar year is just going to end on the 3rd. So get your venue in there. That's very important, obviously, because worship is all about people coming together, and you can also still do your virtual event as well, and we can add things about that later. And then organizer, I'm just going to select an organizer. Not always is necessary, but depending upon how you have things organized. And let's give it a featured image here. So we'll go over there, select a media, and let's just grab this guy here. So we've got, and then no cost, you can leave the rest of this blank. So we have our dates, our location, our recurring schedule. We're a part of the worship series, and then part of the worship category. So let's go ahead and publish that. So I'm going to go ahead and create a couple more events, and then I'll check back in with you here shortly. Okay, so I've got my events created here. So I went ahead and did a recurring event for youth group, 11 a.m. worship service, coffee hour, and 8 a.m. worship service. So these three have the categories of worship and a series of worship. We'll show you why we're doing that. And then youth group has a category of youth group and a category of youth. Again, use these however you need to and make as many different ones as you want. So let's go ahead and add the worship ones to the worship page that we've created. So I want to navigate down to where I'm at, where I'd like it. I'm going to add here, and I'm going to do a search for event. Now, if you do a search for event in the Divi modules and you don't see these, reach out to support. We can get these activated on your stuff. Lots of cool ones here. I encourage you to play around, but what we're going to focus on is the events feed. So basically, we're going to go, and I want to say custom event selection, because I want to add all sorts of different things, different options. So I want to select the categories. This is why we categorize events, so that we can do this. But as you can see, we could also sort by organizer, venue, or series, but for right now we're just going to stick to the category. So go through here, there's lots of different settings. I'll do that here in a little bit. The one that I want to make sure that you have, and I'll show you why, is that excerpt is checked to yes. The rest of them will just be preferences. So I'm going to go through and I'll see you back in a little bit. Okay, so I've gone through and I have my events selected, and what we're showing are things with the event category, including the featured image, 6 in a row. Again, you can play with these settings however you want, but this is how you can get events. So now to take it a step further, let me show you why we utilized series. So we'll go ahead and exit the Visual Builder here, and we're going to go back over to our series, and we're going to click on Worship. And what you're going to notice here is now all of the events that are a part of this series are listed here. And what's important is you can edit individual events in this series. And what's really important about this is events rank high in search engine optimization because they're current, they're changing, and so it's a great way to grab a little SEO love. And what we want to do is to be able to make sure we have unique information about each event. So when we go, let's just go ahead and edit our 8 a.m. worship service. It's going to open up a new tab here, and this is where we can put in details about just this event. So I would do things like, scripture verses that you're going to be covering, maybe the sermon topic. If you have a live feed option, this is a great place to drop in your live feed. So we want to just basically put in any details that we can. So I'm just going to throw in some bacon ipsum though for right now. The other important part though is this excerpt, and I'm going to show you why, because it shows up on those events list. Little bit more, we'll just say that. And if we go ahead and update, now we want to make sure here, this is important because if you just say all events, it's going to take this detail and put it across all events in that series. We just want to edit this one event. So you click OK, and it's going to put unique information just for that one event. And what it actually does is it breaks out this event to its own event outside of that recurring schedule. And so what's great about this is you set up these recurring events so that they will just happen automatically. Your website will stay up to date, even if you forget to edit that one little minute detail. But this allows you to, as we're planning for the program year, schedule out all of your events, but then as they come nearer and you know more information about them, you can break them out of that recurring cycle, keeping their date, and then add unique details about that. And what's great is then it will show up down here in this new event feed that we created. See, there's a little bit more because we said to add excerpt. So even on this event list, it will show just that excerpt of those details, and then you can click more info. It'll open that up. So it'll have related events, and then this is all the extra info. So this is where you could put in like your live feed, links to the bulletin, scripture verse passages. I mean, there's all sorts of things that you could do with this. So it makes your events much more interactive, which then Google will love, and your rankings will get higher. So you can do the same thing with youth group and really any other pages that you have. But this is how you can keep your website nice and organized and current with using the event system. Hope this helps. Let us know what questions you have. Again, we're going to be making videos, so please subscribe. And if there's anything we can do to help out, please reach out. All right, thanks again. Bye.